Flyers up until I know I'm switching cameras and everything, but I'm changing different things. Again, just another update for some more people coming in. I'm doing a watch party here on YouTube tonight for the Flyers Blues game. Kind of have it down there at the bottom as you see on the screen. So come tune in. Again, Riley Cote joining me here in about 15 minutes. But the Flyers rebuild is seeing results, and the young kids are playing well and being a huge part of that. Let's kind of break down some numbers. So in March, the Flyers went 6-4-3. That's their second best month of the season. And I thought there were a lot of good things too. And again, if anybody wants to call in, be my guest, 267-939-1216. Talk about it, obviously would be good to, keep the conversation on the young guys too. But if anybody has a question, comment, anything, hit the phone line. Again, 6-4-3 in March. Pretty good month. 41 goals for, 41 goals against. Not bad. We're shut out, I think, once or twice. Carter Hart did have a shutout as well. Tippett had a hat trick versus Buffalo. Frost had 2 goals versus Montreal and Buffalo. So some pretty, good high scoring games for some of the younger guys. Again, Carter Hart with a shutout against the Red Wings. A couple good games for Felix Sandstrom. Samuel Ersson was pretty good for a good chunk of it as well. And just for the 4 guys on the string here, I have Cates, Frost, Tippett, and York. And I'll kind of go through some stats that I kind of wrote down for all of those guys, especially for Tippett. So I kind of want to talk about Tippett because, and again, I don't want to, segment out like, or kind of just like not talk about guys like Forrester, right? Guys like Zamula, guys like that. But I will say those guys did play well too, and it's not just the problem with it is it's such small stints, right? And I'm probably in a couple weeks I could add Ronnie Adder to the list depending on how many games he plays. Same thing with Sam Ersson, you could add him. Obviously, at the end of the season, I'll break down everybody at one time, and we'll kind of just go through all of it. But for most of this year, and the reason I focus on a lot of these 4 guys here is because when you look at these 4 guys, and overall, you see the legit progress that these guys are showing, especially guys like Frost. So all of these numbers for these 4 players is from March 14th. That was against the Vegas Golden Knights. Since then, Morgan Frost has 6 goals, 6 assists. Owen Tippett has 5 goals and 3 assists. Noah Cates has 2 goals and 6 assists. And Cam York has a goal and 4 assists. And that's only for, a 10 to 15 game span. That's pretty good. And especially, too, because for Frost, example, 2 2-goal games, like I mentioned, Montreal and Buffalo. He's got 12 points, obviously in that span. He's got 22 shots on goal in 10 games. Tippett has, again, 5 goals, 3 assists, like I mentioned. In those 10 games, has 33 shots. And I do have another thing on Tippett here as well. I tweeted this out earlier. Tippett has 59 shots on goal in the last 15 games, from March 1st up until today, going on from the game tonight against St. Louis. His highest in a game this season was 9 versus Tampa Bay on March 7th, had 8 versus Pittsburgh twice, March 11th in a 5-1 loss, and then on Sunday in a 4-2 loss against Pittsburgh on the 2nd. The goals really aren't there for how many shots, and that's not like a knock on Tippett. Like, he's been incredible, right? But he only has 6 for that span, and 1 was an empty netter. So unfortunately, he's getting robbed by some of these goalies. Like Casey DeSmith had some really good saves on him as well, and in both of those games. So again, really good showing for Tippett, and just the overall season. These guys have played well. Noah Cates is another one. He's been scoring more, again, 8 points, but he's +8 on the season. +8. For a team where a lot of their star guys, Travis Konecny's -13. Like, you look at a lot of the guys, and especially last year, like Keith Yandle being -47. Like, the last couple of years, plus minus is a stat that you look at and you're like, oh God, like, eesh. But now when you see some, like, when you look at, I think for some guys, like, Sanheim last year was like +7 or 6 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Sanheim had a really good showing. And, when you look at Sanheim last year and you're like, oh, okay, he had a pretty decent year, but, plus minus. I don't know, not everybody looks at plus minus the same way because plus minus is changed. Like if you hop on the ice and you're, say it's a far change in the second period and you're like at the red line and you get scored on, you get a minus for that. Like you're not even involved in the play. So there's that too. But when you see a +8 for a guy like Noah Cates, who has shut down McDavid for, a couple times this year, he did it against Sidney Crosby the other night. He did a really good season defensively, and he's turning into a young Couturier. I've said that before. I made the video on it. Jamie Bascal brought it up last week. Like, there's a lot of good things that have been coming out of Noah Cates, and just in general, you have a player who is so responsible defensively that the offense is probably going to come, right? You're probably going to see more of that. And again, 2 goals, 6 assists. He's played net front on the power play, all of that stuff, and he's just been able to score. And for Cam York, like I mentioned, since March 14th, there's a goal and 4 assists. He's only played 48 games, but for York, when York came up, I was like, I honestly I should start in the beginning of the year when he was kind of sent down. When York was sent down, I said to myself, I'm like, all right, let's see what happens here, because this is clearly like a thing with Torts, and he's trying to get the most out of him. And when that was happening, I was like, okay, well, let's kind of see. I didn't think he had the best camp. He didn't have a great showing in the preseason, but Bradshaw and Torts and everybody in the staff, they've done an incredible job with York. Like he's genuinely looked like to me, he's been the team's best defenseman. And Ristolainen's behind him. Like, those two guys have been good. I think Prorov's had a good year too. I don't really think that many Flyers have had, bad seasons, especially for the defense. The offense is one thing, but defensively, not too many have had bad seasons. I think Seaworth's had a good year. D'Angelo, I think, some rough patches here and there, but overall a solid season for Tony, I think. I know everybody talks about his defense too, and I think it can still get worked out. We'll see. But again, as for York, he's +5, and if I were to criticize really any of these guys, like Frost, I'd like to see Frost, get his shot off more. It would be nice, I think for Tippett, it would be nice if they're, just consistency, right? I think for him, Cates, I'd like to see more offense out of Cates too, but also like when you look at the offense with this team too, you have to think to yourself, and the guys that are at least putting up some points, like the Flyers don't score much. They've been scoring more recently, and again, they had 41 goals in the month of March. I think for some of these guys, like Cates, I'd like to see more offense out of. Cam York, probably. I'd like to see York kind of jump into the rush more. As for Philly season, I need a comment here. He said, bro, honestly, with the position we're in with Sanheim, I'd take a 5th-round pick 5 years from now just to guarantee that massive extension's off the books. See, that's the thing. Like, with Sanheim, I don't think the money is bad on the deal. It's just, it's insanely long in term is the problem. Like, every year that Sanheim got a contract extension, he got the same money. He got a $2 million to $2.5 million in a raise. So, there's that too. It's like, there's more that you can kind of give with him. And also at the same time, again, it's consistency. I think that's the biggest thing really with a lot of the guys. But like Frost, he's had a really good showing these past couple of games. He's been shooting. It's been going in, frankly, one thing. As for Tippett, he's had a lot of shots on goal. Again, 59 in the last 15 games, like I talked about. It's insane. And it just makes you think, too, like, if the power play could at least get somewhat better at some point, like, they'd be scoring a lot more. And the Flyers have had some power plays where they've been getting some more chances. Right, Paul, exactly, and that's the problem. I mean, the term, and I think Chuck just he didn't wait to see what was happening with Torts, and I don't think him and Sanheim see eye to eye. They've kind of talked about that. Raz Gaming asked score prediction for tonight. I have a feeling that I think the Flyers are going to win tonight. I think the only reason I'm saying that is because they're 2-0 on nights that we've done the show so far, and they have games on Tuesday throughout the end of the season as we're doing the show. So it would be nice if they could finish 4-0 because not this week but the following week, that's the last week of the season, and we'll kind of obviously break all of it down on that following Tuesday. But yeah, I'm going to say the Flyers win tonight. Why not? I mean, you're playing St. Louis, who you beat before. You actually killed them early in the year. You beat them 5-1, scored a lot of goals. Sanheim had a goal that night. Noah Cates chipped in. Wade Allison got the party started. I mean, there was a lot of different things that kind of happened early on, especially, too, because that was around the time where the Flyers were kind of like not too bad, but they were still kind of good in a way. It was before the 10-game losing streak at the beginning of the season, which I think people kind of forget that we had. Also beat St. Louis last year in St. Louis 5-2. Hayden Hodgson made his debut and scored. Yeah, and that was probably the best game Hayden Hodgson played as a Flyer because he played the home opener this year, and he looked god-awful in that game and never played since. And that's not a knock at him. It's just his game he just did not have a good game. Yeah, Hockey 2891. Realistically, I'm hoping we get more at the draft. If lucky, Will Smith would be nice. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for the draft, again, and this segment kind of ties into the draft too. Again, we got Riley Cote coming up in a couple minutes before I butcher that. I think for the draft, really, realistically, wherever the Flyers kind of fall, again, they're still in 26th at the moment. Still in 26th at the moment. Again, sorry, I had to enter text. 26th at the moment. It's probably gonna go up and down. I don't know. It depends on if Montreal wins, and depending if the Coyotes win as well, and if the Flyers obviously lose. There's definitely some games on this Flyers schedule that you definitely could pencil in as losses. Just looking at the schedule, you have Dallas on Thursday. I don't think the Flyers are going to be winning that one. You have the Islanders, Boston on Sunday. That's probably a loss, and then you have Columbus and Chicago to end the season. So those definitely can be wins, depending on if the Flyers kind of, win here and whatnot. So we'll have to see, what kind of happens here coming up, because a lot has changed because, the Flyers have kind of gone up. They've been scoring more, so that's kind of been changing with everything. But really, it's only like a 1%, 1.5%, 2% difference. I don't know it's going to change much. Philly season said, I still think it's crucial to get another high pick this year. I 100% agree. I said that the other day off the air. I was just thinking about it. And I think that's going to happen. I think if you trade Provorov and Hayes at the draft, because they talked about the draft, that seems like it's going to be happening. Again, we got Riley Cote coming in here in 40 seconds. If that were to be the case, first of all, for Ivan Provorov, you 100% can get a first-round pick for this year. For Kevin Hayes, you could certainly get a second, because they definitely do need to get a second-round pick for this year. You don't have one for next year either. So we'll see what happens. Obviously there's a lot of different things that are going to be kind of changing, especially too because, kind of like I said, everything's and it's quick. I mean, it's May 8th. It's like a little less than a month away. So we'll see what happens, obviously, because there's so many different things that are kind of been changing with it, and if the Flyers lose more games, it's better. But at the same time, it's like, when do you kind of look at the wins versus the overall type of process?